Hey, Vincent.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, what's up? I'm great.
It's good to see you.
Nice haircut.
Your voice is coming from the speaker behind me, and I just heard my name. Who's there?
Wait, my voice is coming from behind you?
Yeah, it's from the speaker over there.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yes.
How does my voice sound from?
Perfect.
Good.
Very good. Okay, live streaming, recording. I think everything's good.
Is already recorded? It's already recorded?
Yes.
Yalla. That's a good stuff.
Enjoy. Yes.
디테일을 잡아주었다.
알았어.
나 딜마 사이드.
Poi da Tsering mi è scoperto. Là.
Here, because he didn't believe that I wrote down questions during his class that I didn't have time to ask, so we have to have an extra session, so I can ask you all of
Your
this.
mom just did that. Your prima poiesti ma sono io perdo anche Argentina così.
He was joking that I knit and don't listen to his class.
정확하게는
Yeah. 아니 땅을 접합도 고추라. 이게 고추라 드린 두쪽 콜렉티스. 나는 고추라.
가라스.
Marita, direi di molto che sia cosa siamo nelle mie grida. Molto magari c'è. Sempre di molto c'è. Inizi da catone sono again donation.
그래서 동부 리마티스 동부가 승저도 마치로 거더라. 내가 가서 이제 들어서서 이거 승저도 마치로 anything 거니 도와줄래나. 다 섬서 도와줄 섬서지.
Riferire marciare
di tombo di tema allora.
Okay.
È solo il team, yeah.
Vincent?
Yes.
Di solo che sono battuta.
Yeah, okay. So let's start. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Everyone already came here? First time? So you two first time? So so since you are, so this is a Shide group. So this is a group called Shide. Okay, and we have the aim to promote the well-being and a peaceful methods for peaceful mind in this very lifetime, even without thinking the next life. Okay, so this is just more by the secular and psychological approach that we are speaking today. Okay, and Geshe Tsering Samdrup also joined us here this year, and he came from Tibet. Okay, and he finished all of his graduation in Geshe in South India in Samdrup Monastery, and this year, luckily, he came here to teach us. Okay, to help us to teach. So welcome everyone, and today the session is going to be a little bit shorter. Okay, usually it's 3 to 4:30. For something 5, but today, because we have another class after this, we have an online class to Brazil today for 30, and so we have to finish a little bit before, so something like 4:15, something like that. Okay, well, so last week we started with these eight verses of mind training. I think all of you have these, and also PDF, you have these guys, right? So today Geshe asked me to tell you. So we go through the third verse, and then we reflect and think about this third verse.
네, 정말 다시 딜레. 다니.
Touch delay, everyone.
다니 nga karasena tana di jonka sholoka samba shindo. Como aso te tsik tonda da ma jindrani. Tene nga so tingo ne pense samsa sheri chena ya biyo sarela.
So just like so we go through the third verse, okay, and I'm gonna explain in brief this third verse, and after we do a little bit of question and answers and a discussion.
아니 단단히 그 돈다다 지금 젠바질 시야 마인바 스스로는 시셔바티 섬냐고 돌아더라.
And when we are reading and thinking about this, like don't think about others. Oh yes, she or he needed to know this, or no, think about one's own self. Okay.
단단히 송게의 그 마송요의 수제 규모의 마송요의 소소 디그 나라 송샤 디그 나라 라샤 닉텔 시샤스소지 셀냐 토이나 페도침부 요레스더라.
Thank you. Suddenly so much light. And so all the time that Geshe is speaking about this verse, every time that you listen about this verse, think really like from deep of your heart that, oh, he's speaking to me. He's talking to me. He's talking about me. That's the mind that you have to generate.
디마토 가선도 마시라 더 마진지를 시여사레 소소지 소소를 켜니 소마토나 같이 시나 페토요 말레스 디데 가서 페톤도 알아 말레
Otherwise, if one doesn't create this habit or this attitude of listening, the kind of listening, and instead one, oh, this is exactly it's true for other person. Oh, this is how happens to other people. Actually, this teaching, anytime that you are listening about this, is not going to be beneficial for you.
tombo de terreno that ingeno te ina ko that gyolo kanda se the gyolom tanga so ka kiton li ma yoson yora ngar so li kiton ma chi yoson yora otika ni ta lojan de gyolo pula grelo ba.
Well, so let's read the third verse together. Okay, and so during all my activities, I approve my mind, and as soon as an affliction arises, since it endangers myself and others, I train myself to confront it directly and avert it. When I talk about like activities, right? Activities. So first of all, we have three kinds of activities: body, speech, and mind activity.
아니 다 결로 군들라나 디 탐체들에 디들레나 답변 나서 녀자 트치르잖아 지세니 시사시 여와 지세니 시사시 같이 이나 소소고 결로라 아니 다케 제고레세들.
And when you say during all my activities, what means all activities and all the actions that I do with my body, speech, and mind? All means like all the activities that I engage in one day within these 24 hours. So within the 24 hours that we have in one day, we engage in constant activities that we have to check, to observe, to check the nature of the activities we are engaging in.
Tandina rangela se rantido ti con la dana se vato ti otinola dania se soma soso se jares rangela zina sosore dala na dana la na soso ko jere da ani dania sina soso ko jere soma to soso ko gurela.
During all my activities I approve my mind, right? During all my activities, I approve is written in this third verse. Have a look in the first and second verse. In the first verse, in the third line is I train myself. I. In the second verse, it's saying whenever I interact with others, I will view myself, etc., etc. It's always saying about I, or my activities. What means that when all of these verses and the lessons, the moral that is saying here is not for us to observe our own actions, our own behavior. Okay.
다니 랑게젤라 네 또종세데 또세가 츠동보니데가 아니 또조지나 가서 정지제바도 직발에 또조지나 바케제바데 하고자 또종세데 결로근다 랑겔라 또종세야 제고 쇼레스 다 디토 넘바 근데 소소그 젤라 바케제고레스 소소 뭐 간딘지도 성우 간딘지 킹도 계자 간딘시도 어디 바케제고레스 또종세데레스.
And so in the third line again, in the third verse again, during all my activities, I approve my mind. Prove, I check, I engage in checking. I check the state of my mind. That's what it means. Prove.
다케제오디 나서 그 지라지 야비 차지도 styugi chaji ni yores. Tini yenchi meji taji chego sate lebi chaji to mlebi kyuji chani. Tini soso shibo re setere.
And what means to check or to prove, to check? To check in both ways, like what is right, what is wrong. The good side of my mind and the bad aspect of my mind. So the differentiation of good and bad, this is what means how to prove or how to check.
Tati taji cheorela, taji tongki ka shipa loji yore. Konga pana tati tongsa chi yore, tati tongi jawa chi yore, jaji li son chi yorwa. Tati tongsa ta soso ka li nga yeson to la tati tongore. Tati tongchi ta nonga soso ka nongkyo demi shirab chi yorwa, soso ka shirab tik tati chokore. tachi tongsa ngoni de karare karala tachi tongsa lebareto malebare yareto mayabare otil tachi chekore.
When you say about the checking activities, like I have to check my mind in the sense of what has to be checked or proved or checked one's own mind. Who is the checker? Who engage in the activity of checking the mind, the wisdom or the mind, which call wisdom, that is able to check, and how to check or which kind of level has to be checked if that mind is towards the bad, it's in a good or bad state.
다 tachi tonti susul tachi tonamato majela tachi tona zoayo mar mantame bachi di mariri lenda mandayore dela tachi tot susurong onchayore susul gasha ja susul onchayore susurong tachi tontore la.
And whose mind has to be checked? One's own mind. So the wisdom mind checks one's own mind, not like others' mind, others' people attitude, or others' mind, because then this action of checking is going to be infinite, because there are infinite people, infinite beings. So we don't check others, we check one's own mind.
Tene ngaso susul ka dikya to susul kipo maya pose samba zombo te gara ina mina tombo susul sanin gotsu gores majela ya pache meche ke jamare susul rong sanin gotsu goti susul rong ta che goata ni parzo zom gorela.
And then when wants to wish to check like what means to be a good person and how to become a good person, so forth. So one has to start with oneself. If oneself doesn't know what means like a good person and doesn't know how to check within oneself if the good attitude is there or not, so how to criticize, how to check and criticize all others if one doesn't know what exactly means to be one good person. So first, one has to check in one's own attitude, like what to be a good attitude.
Tene ngaso tachi tonti susul chani shibures lebi chat to malebi chachi kyunji chani shu ta ngaso nomba sonji bi jone mita to jire mato keton masoma ka ya chi to dia chi soma khilela ina dia tala ngaso nyomu chosene kani nyomu chosene tane de nyomu ki mata se nyomu tala malebi chat to kyunji chat tala nyomu se mi ta shares din dosho ka ya tala giva se mi givi ta nojo joji choose givi choose ni otimita vares tra.
And so when we check, and so we have to check which kind of state of mind is there, a good or a bad state of mind. So there's these two kinds of states that we have to check in how our mind is abiding with. Okay, so that's first thing. And then the second is usually when we check, we see the good and bad side, but the most important is to observe and to recognize the bad side, the bad states of mind, because actually the bad state of mind or bad state of mind or the afflictions. That's the reason that he is written like, and as soon as an affliction arises. So afflictions arises mean the bad state of mind, the bad side of the mind that we have. This you have to understand in order to transform, right? And how when this bad state of mind is transformed and then the mind flourish, the good side, and then flourish a virtuous state of mind. So the bad side or the afflictive mind can not transform, but this state can be dispelled and then can give a space or rise to the positive side of the mind or the virtuous mind.
Tene ta ngaso ne kyunji chato soso ko malebi chatala nyumo se chagores tendri ke send le leoti ani soso matyo waso ta rai matyo je matyo soma matyo sema divaso ani tropo mongo nyando dena soso chipo le do tendri changdo rela dara.
And then, so what means like the bad state of mind or the bad side of the mind is this afflictive mind. So, but what means affliction? When we say afflictive mind, affliction. So what means this? Is this bad state of mind, not the bad minds, that turns our mind agitated and in an unease state, right? Like not happy, agitated. And this create like suffering for oneself and for others. And the function of this affliction mind is sort of to first agitate oneself to create sort of problems and to separate people, like weaken the relationship between people.
Tene nyomo se atala chitone ta rimombo chiori ina chiton sai nyomo to ni nyomo se ni ta simjo matu ti no mombo chiori ti tanga so ti se gera mare ti ta chiton ni nyomo se ta garrezi kanida su jagorezi na so so ke se majwa se majwa sun ke ka ta no ke salon tala nyomo la gre la tara.
So actually, we have many kinds of afflictions, or many ways of presenting or and studying presenting afflictions. But in general, like we have the root afflictions and secondary afflictions, or so many other divisions of afflictions and presentations of afflictions. But in general, as you said before, and so afflictions is that mental factor that agitates and turns your mind into an unhappy and uneasy state.
Contar ngaso chi da stai nyomo ni nyomo tongka mombo donanda madonanda soso ge la samba chi kiwuni ti ni rama kiwa yona rongo topo ni jemba somala makiwa zange chi semno chi leva yina ti jacha jata ka ko resitra kimachi.
So it doesn't matter if we talk about the divisions and how many kinds and what are the types of afflictions in practice. Like how do we recognize is that, all the time that we are feeling like unease or unhappy or anxious and so forth, that state of mind that brings you this kind of characteristics, this is due to an affliction. And so these afflictions, this bad experience, mental and emotional experience, is what has to be learned and then blocked.
That nigga nyomo lota nasoya kiwo kanisi kirezina kola kiesa ka jetala yechimichi son yoresita jason ketonta jitrimu senge yoredi tananga songu ni sawa tara.
And there are there are many roots, many causes for an afflictions to give rise, right? But in brief, we can condense them in three main causes to an afflictive mind to give rise.
아니 저번에 다 자가고 좀 로페 이니 금저 자와노 가르소르나 근데 그 너무 기사들라 열 무바지고 그래서 근데 농게 소소고 jel라 센춘절로 달로 마롱지 또 세메지들라
tampoco creo
아니 또 무바 무비야 무열지 그래서 아니 소소고 jel라 로춘절로지 그래서 또 세메지라래 로춘절로지 그래서 근데 요 소소고 jel리카 뭐뭐지 그때 사본다 바창다 사본다 뉴모지 그래서 어디서든 송티 아니 다 세마지와도 레오레스 뉴모지 그래서.
Well, talking about if we look at the Abhidharma Kosha, the text of Abhidharma Kosha from Vasubandhu, what they said, he presented the three main roots of causes of these afflictions. That is, first is an object, an external object. Second is one's own mistaken mind or mistaken perception, and the third as in a condition to give rise to these misperceptions is sort of a seed, a karmic seed or karmic imprint. So these three are the three conditions in order to afflictive mind to give rise.
Tate lota kanina se korogo ngota kanino jure lana koya kilo ti sosoya wichi tomato atende kalitenge so ranli na o kalitenge ti lota lesati topotali na o jiramantewa keja na yo jiramantewa nokeshe na yo soso de madiwa tindi chigrese koko lok ngota ti udi tindi tsore.
And the very essence the very essence of this afflictive mind or the afflictions is sort of to almost block our own breath, in the sense of we become blocked, we become completely unhappy or blocked in order to receive anything. For example, even if one friend is talking to us, anything that this friend will talk to us is going to be not well received, and then the misconceptions and then the relationships will become weaker. But in this, out of these afflictions, so the afflictions sort of create an ease and unhappy state of mind that even like turns all kind of interactions blocked.
아니 다또 로트가 리카노진한다 콜라 리카 젤린라 리토도 가르르즈나 더디 로트가 예츠사디 아니 라운드 제탄질라 마롱 제레스 단단디도아 아니 다제 마롱 치피나시아치도 다동 셰르네 다 소소도 고아치 제 소소고 쪼보도 드니다 지 선셰기 젠바이나 잘라 젠바다 또 소말라 마디와 마티와도
So we just went through the essence of affliction on the nature of the affliction. Okay, so what is the function? What is the function of an afflictive mind, right? Or afflictions or afflictive mind is to turn oneself and others unsuitable, sort of unsuitable. It's not suitable anymore in order to interact, okay, or to be happy and so forth. Just like here in the third line of the third verse is saying, since it endangers myself and others, and so turns myself and others sort of unsuitable to feel good and so forth. And so this is the function, and so this is the work or the function of an afflictive mind.
다 티그라 노니 다 뇨모 찍은 노니 다 알아서 남게 처음만 파시 첨부 여대 그 뇨모 모고 노니 당아들이 찍으는 제자와는 가서 노착세 그 뇨모 찍을 딜러니 가서 제자 찍자는 가서 연주 지잖아 간디어서 레라다.
Okay, since there are so many afflictions, so let's at least take one for an example. And so maybe let's take the afflictive mind called attachment.
단 도착달라 제도 리니츠레스 니 도착나서 Como pensa chikila chapi kandocha antela anin docha rapaze chiksere the maybe jala to muputrile chapi chapa chamuji chapatala rini reladara.
Okay, let's try to present the attachment in two ways, in a gross and a little bit more subtle way. So the example of the first gross attachment is sort of the attachment among partners, like among girls and boys or whatever. And so among these partners is the first gross level of attachment. And the second and a little bit more subtle attachment is the attachment that we have towards things and towards situations.
Tani dan dochatala penangaso pomo pense chapi kandochatalan docharapare Tendijila ngaso sense gematoni, she cheating roina, taken tatilla, so in Matthewazo, Pasho in Matthew, Nika Matthewazo, Pajang as a Hakagerella, Pomoke Chabi Chabajera. Tiga and sense gematona.
Sense Zopa.
So some Yapuchi Zomatoa, you need some Matthewas resta.
So the first one, the very gross way of attachment, what was it? Okay, the attachment among partners, right, or between partners or among whatever, and so the attachment between partners is like more gross level, is more obvious and more gross level. Semieros. Oh, and then so this very gross level attachment that we can experience among partners and so forth, between partners, like if you can't control, if you can't, like at least recognize and control this attachment, then creates so much unease, like agitation and fear and so mainly the agitated mind.
Tani tangaso tachi nyomu kirela jason yoga noje dosha ta kiu de ko jason yores ko panan dosha ti amupa chi ton non suso ke semo to chi to tela nyomu jinji gropa some yores de yoyo ando chirena tra.
And just like all afflictions, as we said before, so attachment also has three main causes that give rise to this attachment. That is either an object in the sense of object for this attachment to this mind to give rise. So the first causes the object that we are aiming to. The second one is that mistaken understanding, mistaken perception, and the third is proper condition that is also an afflictive seed or karmic imprint.
Rataniga Nyomuta Kyo, the pen and Dochaze at the Mupatala, and number township, Kopasho and Zipochi to Yapochi to New Jimachi, Kejashi to in a new Jimo, Liga Namjete to in a new Jimo Shatsam, Tandichi, La Mui de Rela, the number de Rela.
Okay, so for attachment, so the first of the three causes, the aim of the object. So the object becomes one visualize or focus all the attentions towards one aspect of that object. And so not just all aspects, just from the positive aspect of that object. So attachment, just see whatever good aspect of that object it has. So let's say that it's beautiful, it's just beautiful, or it's good, it's just good, and so forth. And so attachment makes that visualization of the object, but just from one aspect that is super exaggerating that good aspect.
Tani teka ane lo teka tani chi noa te ngoni ka pasho da tani ka chi sha tsam nyu jimo kecha she to na nyu jimo lika che to kari na chi so so ko pe yabu shi bi thong de tin thong no je da pasho da ngoni re tong so so ko lo ka chi zonjo re za jang chi che go re la ta.
And so in this moment, one has to really check if it's really observed properly and reflect honestly in the sense of, okay, that person, let's say a person, that object of my attachment is really 100% beautiful or perfect and so forth, just like I'm perceiving, or actually it's not that the person is 100% perfect as I'm perceiving. Instead, I am making my own mind actually is creating, my own mind is making that perfection of that person. So where is this perfection coming from, or the perfection side of that person coming from?
Tati janji cheo de ngaso kandi janji cheo na pena soso ka nawan rosa ka chi ane chapa chisa ka mati ka soso la tsinge chi laba te ton soso titu nyam de jemba chi soso la tsinge chi laba ina chik de laba te losa soso so po tsiba zamres kanda soso ka nawan rosa meti ka kecha ka shina nando ma tanda kol pagabu che no ma to tsiba no ma resi oti tani pasho ti and then
when we are checking about this, let's say that a person that we are very attached and another person that we don't have this attachment. If a person that we don't have that attachment says something, tells us something that is sort of rude or and so forth, like we really become angry. Instead, when the person that we are so attached maybe tells something or rude or just says exactly the same thing that the other person we may feel offended or angry, but that other person that we are so attached, like doesn't matter whatever that person says, like everything is so beautiful because that person is so perfect. We don't even like listen with the bad sides because that person for us is just perfect.
Tendek dachin do loji kiworan do chaji kiworwa tenen do chati nong susuk nong ge le chincholo le maron otendi chi kesho bat tachin rela.
So when one is checking, actually one can understand that this perfection actually is made by the mistaken mind that is within our own self. And so this mistaken mind that is called in this example attachment. So actually the attachment actually is creating the perfection and the just 100% the good sides and not coming from the object.
Tatindile ode ngasola chi mikoshi tu chi sosoga chi chapachi sa mata ta pomo pense kari na chi tu ti miko chubu yore chi topo yapo chi lea no chi chubu chi yore ti te ni so la kanga te at momba chi so ronso che go at ndi tong go ngi mo bu chin do te chongma te so te do sha chi at go so barela.
And it's true that when you are out of your attachment together with this person, either friends or either like partners and so forth, it's true that you have a temporarily happiness or well-being and good time. Okay, you have a good time in that moment. It's true. But because this relationship actually is based on attachment, so in the future, maybe in the future, like through some difficulties and so forth, and then out of this, because it comes a bad time or difficulty time, and then because it was based on attachment, and then in the future, it will bring you a really like bad time for you.
That nichi oting asola Matthew ta susu kanidasi mata susu tombo susu the ngozin che gures kazong aso tinga la da se te kanidasi se ngaso chi yangji chi chera o tika la ni ta choso tika ni chi susu la ngonse che to la chi tanda kazong aso de dange ma de chera ti ji la choso yangji che chera to mara ro ani kasi che yona kanidasi shogu dos chi tanda nyomo shi chi bu ti u ko nga do sa shi chi bu ti u ko so yo nga ji le res ti ko nga ta kanidasi yo ta yangji che na ni ngaso te so ndo sa chi ra re la da.
Okay, and so first of all, when we are talking about these attachment sensations that we receive, actually that we perceive, actually this all comes because we can't even recognize our own self, and so because we don't recognize, don't understand how this self actually exists, that's the reason that all of these afflictions, for example, attachment, give rise. And last Sunday, we check a little bit about this, right? Do you remember? We check a little bit about this I, or this perception of the self, how this really how do you perceive this, how you experience this I, right? I don't know if you had time or opportunity to really check along the week, along the days, but if you, I wish to listen a little bit about the check, and then how to perceive your own I. Likewise, now today we are talking about attachment. And so all the time that you are under the force of attachment, the very first thing that comes, that is very strong experienced when attachment is there, is a sense of I, these false eyes and so forth. So how did you perceive this I along the week, the days?
Tene ya kazong aso dang 문제 사 지시래 단다디 걸요 아니 아랑젤라 따세 아랑 인치 메싱 아서 랑스도 다제도 가서 다 베게고니 치바래 아니 당알 코쇼래 나타 간인데 인치 메치 장지 제고도 가서 거서 선설 몸보지 선서 아니 땡알에 대해서 장지 제는 교소 지 장지 제야 근데 제 라나 마라나
Before we reflect about this I, so I, self actually are all the same, right? So this I and self, they exist. This exists in a certain way, in a certain mode of existence. Is I, and it's very important to really check, to understand how this I exists, or how do we perceive the existence of this I. I don't know if you reflect on this during the day. I did during the days of this week. I did reflect again, because you said so many things, and so I got opportunity to reflect about this I. So I want to hear from you and people at home also, how this I, your I, like you, your I, self, how this appears to you, and how do you experience this I?
아니 다 장지 제때 말하면 단단 가서 성로 지도데 단다 가서 소말로 빠진 도차 시침부 기능게 전조레스라 이는 도차 기우고서 스스로 간이도 실은도 되지 주소 성선을 제 여도면라다 도차 기우디.
Okay, if you didn't have an opportunity to experience or not this I, at least now today I'm talking about attachment. And so when you experience attachment, how do you feel? How do you perceive this attachment, or this I that is experienced attachment? So Anila has something to say. So you put some mic, then people at home also can listen whenever they are speaking here. Later.
First, 3 days back, I just think about what exactly I exist. So when I think about that, then I am really difficult to find out exactly where it is exists, because my body itself is not me, and my consciousness also not me, right? So it's tough for me to say that what exactly my self-existence till now. It's really tough to say, but I wonder that why, if something is not exist exactly I considered, and then still why I have so much attached to that. That is the one. And second, when I got so much attachment, when I arise so much attachment, especially to my uncle, because my parents are dead, and then he acted as my parents. So when it came very arrest strongly. Then when somebody says bad about my uncle, then I get easily hurt. It stopped to listen the reason behind. It's tough to listen the reason behind what my uncle exactly.
Which reasons behind?
When I got attachment to my uncle strongly, then when people say bad about my uncle, for me really tough to accept and to listen the reason. It's tough to listen. Yeah.
Very practical.
아니 때에 넣었어요. 나서 아니 저번 다 지우디 다만이니 강을 뒤저 요이서래. 아마 야름 식으로 뒤지 손요래. 아니 힌디라 마지레스나 젠글라 마지레 질러스 코 다세트 요마르타래 코 디스 부츠 야지우스 문이 치말레우도스 혹시 담면은 간이제스니 드리라우도스래. 디딜라 테스 강요래라 그랬어.
Well, actually, when we are checking the I, when we are checking this identity or I or self, actually definitely is a very difficult process of checking. It's nothing simple. That's true. Okay. Even like maybe in one teaching, His Holiness Dalai Lama in his teachings, he said, well, there is no self and so forth. When His Holiness was presenting this theory, maybe when someone from Jainism or whichever philosophy it was, one person in front of His Holiness, it became just like shaking and crying just by mere listening. There is no self. And so it's not an easy process. That's true.
소소 아종은 뭐지 증여로도 그 소소 컨트롤로한테 되게 가서 단다 아종의 차비 차바디 non le chinjo logic ya kani long le ya tigres de le ngaso tsawata le chinjo ma tsawala tsawada ma tapala tapa dinga la diwa song le chire ti khate chamate ti kati yena soso chola magani thingela ti ne control yi mares ti tu chamate ki pata control chatung mare la dara.
And in your case, when all the time that someone is speaking bad about your beloved uncle and so forth, immediately comes that anger, right? Yes, this is actually comes through that mistaken mind that we have. That's really holds to something mistaken in a mistaken way, just like holding something that actually is transitory, but being holding as being permanent, or holding something bad as being good, and so forth. So when is present this mistaken mind, this mistaken perception of the object, and then of course, and then you don't know how to counteract that mistaken mind. Of course, all the time that one listens to an unpleasant word and so forth, immediately like anger comes.
What I reflected on this week was doing class with Geshe because we discussed the 10 non-virtues, and we were talking about stealing, and that brought up the question of ownership. So, which I is owning the things? Is it possible that we own like land, the earth, or other sentient beings? So I was reflecting, if there is no I, how can there be ownership and how can there be stealing?
Ani demosa dapo seatira dapo gyaya seatisra. Kersi dak mena kandis ngasu semche shemba ya mena ni sacha shemba ngasu dapo gyaya.
And the second question about the attachment, what he was just explaining. So when a loved person is saying the same words, I often take it more personal because the person is close to me. So if a stranger says something mean to me, I'm like, oh, he doesn't know me, I don't care. But if a loved person says the exact same thing to me, I'm way more hurt because I take it way more personal against me.
Dukcho taktarira que la gisuya tan dukcho malaina que si la tanyibo ni ngala dukcha se na midu lamna ya mera kare lamna ngatis se kipo mai pachanera tis kipo mai para maris nga bet simple trugures ya mena mangires ini ang tanyit tagarang sik tagarang sa nishimba nga mabu ngoma shipa tagas ngala sik dukcha se na midu ya mena Sikin sa daw ngalalam na nga kini duske sa nga ni driwa yung marisa. Driwa yung gil tan ducha tan de beki. Kansa di driwa yung gil kansa di kel sitis ducha daw ngalalam na nga shiwo ni simple to be.
Datire nga so ani dame na ani nga da pajam ke siyore chala ti nga da pajam jati nga gare mare se ke jasing mere zra. Dati Japan nga dame le sia to ani nga sia ti no chipar sigores. Dame se ak dati to meche ka da to nga ni chipar sigorem. Di chipar machina tada corazon ji chala.
Well, the first part of your question that, well, since there is no I, so how then I or self, how can I possess, right? How can I possess something and so forth? Well, actually, this is just a misunderstanding about the what we say in the philosophy that there is selfless, right? Like things are selfless, or there is no self or no I. When we were talking about the lack of self, the selfless and the self has to be differentiated. Which kind of self is non-existence towards one self? And so the non-understanding, the ignorance of not recognizing the difference between which self is non-existence and the other one, due to this, then comes this kind of doubts.
Susu la nga zia nongse ji resi. Susu la ko noa nongje ke nga tiyo mare mato. Kito nongzo to yore la presi.
And so, first of all, okay, let's start. So, self or the I. When we say, oh, I am here and so I. Well, this I, the I that perceives, let's all of you like think like, oh, I. The I that when we think like I, myself, I, the way that we think that we perceive this I doesn't exist in the way that doesn't actually exist, the way that we perceive that this I appears to us. Just this, the I that doesn't exist is the I that actually is being perceived in a different way that actually exists. But of course that we do exist, like based on something we do exist. The I does exist.
Tandi dati kala shena tato liandro resi nga so tanda tizamsa nga shigmi liandro na tato landro re la tara.
But this, the I that doesn't exist, then goes to the philosophical theories, philosophical points that now I'm not gonna explore today. I'm not gonna explore this non-I, okay? But after, if we have time, definitely we go through.
Tani tanda ani 뭐 젬바지 그 소소던 드라 맹게지 그 콜 칭에 자와데 또 소소던 전부 템비 용게 그 칭에 자와니 칭에 라바니 노니 소소던 전부 템비 요바데 그 칭에 자나 칭에 달라와 또 지마루 바치나 소소 군도 치에 로와데 디 타기 트가른 도샤 근데 되요레 소소 아니 또 조고 인게도 소소던 전부 용게도 소소 도샤 식치 진짜 되요레 파쇼들은 도샤 티자 동사레스 디디 소소 배 가쁜 예비 용게도 칠로레 소소 나 군도 치에 요레라다 디 도샤 공그레라다.
And the second part of your question, your question is that, well, the person that I like and then I really feel connected and I like a lot. So sometimes they say the same thing that some other person that maybe I don't know so well and so forth. But the person that I like so much, that word comes just like a bomb, like just offend me and so forth, and I become so angry. And the same words or the same even meaning from someone that I don't have so much relationship doesn't affect me. This is exactly the sign of the presence of attachment, because it's out of the presence of attachment towards that person that because I am attached to that person, so any word, the unpleasant word that person speak to me become so heavy to me because I am attached to that person. On the other hand, the other person that I don't have attachment, so I don't put so much heaviness in their words.
아니 가서 딱이니 아니 도착 스스로 강가 텔레시아트리 제동 소소돈 전부 다 자소이나 펜션 전부 요 거슬러 펜션 도착시 침보 단 도착하나 지동롱도 지와시 전부 때 도착해 디시 집에 요새 같이 시치와서 그 생각을 치리치 되기래나
C'est ton
말에 펜세 가서 찌기찌라다 파마 펜세 있는다 자수 펜세 있는다 펜세 같이 지와 첨부 지와요라 지동 지와 첨부요라
Ale, se tom tsiwa chimpo.
때 같이 요와서도 된 도차래지 맞었던 도차 밑다마다 도차 때 같이 시 첨부요나 아니 가면 치리치리 되게 되려다라
Kel si tsiwa yona?
지와 시 첨부요나
Tsiwa shi chimpo. Do chama impache tsiwa.
말에 너 드니까 지와도 도차래지 제발 지와를 리니어레스
Ale, tsiwa ki rignido.
제가 리니어레스 근데 자소 펜세 차와도 조모도 들리 펜세 몸부페 첨부쇼 차지오라 지와시고 지오라 딘도 차례서 그랬어요 디시까지 지나了 아니
Ale,
소소를 강을 치리치리 띠띠래
Ale, okay, let's go for it. So actually, there are two kinds of, we say like attachments in the sense of love, right? So let's talk about love in general, mundane understanding of love. Actually, there are two kinds of love: the proper genuine love and that love that we mix, we confuse with attachment. And so that love or the sensation of love that we have towards our friends or to our friends or our partners and so forth, if it's too strong in the sense of it's too strong and then creates a problem, actually this is attachment. This is not the pure love. But so because usually it's more based on attachment rather than the genuine love, so if you can reduce this kind of attachment, then definitely it's gonna naturally our problems is gonna be reduced also.
근데 가서 지와들 제선 도착은 된 비지와 제동 뇽지긴 된 비지야지 뇽지긴 된 비지와도 같이 시치에 그 아라운드 제소만을 비치서레스 도착은 된 비지와도 같이 시치나 아라운드 제탄지 맞춰서레스
And so because we have these two kinds of love, and so one is the unconditional love and the other one is the love love mixed with attachment. And so if you really can cultivate the very genuine and unconditional love, so definitely we are able to spread our good sensations and good relationships towards everyone. But if we are always like instead, if you can reduce the power and the intensity of the attachment, the love that is conjoined with attachment, so it's going to help us to reduce our problems also. I don't have a direct experience, but I heard, I already listened a lot about like these, the love conjoined with attachment, mainly among partners and so forth. And then what I heard so much is that as strong as the attachment or love, like the romantic love, let's say like the romantic love is the love conjoined with attachment, okay? So as strong is that romantic love, as strong are the problems, it's more frequent and strong are the problems experienced by that couple.
뇽모지 마타 다제 마로 제비는 제도도니 도르제제들이 뇽모 야질 던지 건도샤다 끼오레 아라도 제 당시 마리 파서레세들이 뇽모지가 나선 세지시시레 다 던지 건 뇽모 니 뇽모 제트자 통여서 공부셔요.
So that's the reason that here again, coming back to our third verse, that's the reason that he's saying, as soon as an affliction arises, and this affliction, one example that we are exploring today is just attachment. And so as soon as an affliction arises, what happens? Endangers or harm myself and others. So oneself and the other person who is relating to is being harmed. That's the reason I have to train myself to confront it. So we have so many afflictions, like it presents in 84,000 afflictions. And we are talking just about one, like attachment.
Tene 뇽모테가 tene 단단도샤 직 tene 그마제레 소젤레 로여제레 아니 zshere ndam mandageni tinoni chumrelata.
And out of another problem of afflictions, for example, again, attachment. So another problem of attachment is out of attachment, one engage in bad attitudes. For example, stealing. Out of attachment, one steals. Out of attachment, one kills. One of attachment, what else? One of attachment, out of attachment, one engage in sexual misconduct. Out of attachment, one speak lies and so forth. And so out of these afflictive minds, so many bad actions comes.
사서.
차서.
Ini jemba trial da. Sonsa yana
Mari
sonsa.
nada gena samsulu yobe shina kutsu samani labio samore. Naso kichitiga. And then Gisela wished to listen about your thoughts and your reflections about this, either the eye, how the eye perceives, and also about these attachment topics. Also, people at home, if you want to ask.
너 사실 끼녀요 있잖아 정말.
La la la.
너 자꾸 정말 끼녀요 있잖아요.
Yeah, I would guess that all of you already experienced some attachment. I don't know.
그래서 promotion에 pensa tipong mo chamyo res. Di cosa 결혼서 가면 가서 떼어서 벌써 년이 요래.
Maybe if you already had any experience of partnership, maybe when you're during the partner's time, maybe you're out of attachment, you probably experienced some problems. Did you have this experience?
나 손다지나 근데 지동래 뉴욕 말에는 정부는 condition 요래에서 실라다 소소 예산에서 쉬고 싫다.
For people that we didn't have this kind of experience, of course, we just follow whatever the examples and the logical reasons that we study in the scriptures. But maybe because some of you might have this experience, how did you feel? How do you feel about this? Yes. Naturally. At home also, okay?
So we've talked about a lot about attachments, and of course we all are attached to our parents, our families, our partners, and so many people. And of course, the pain brings pains at times, and we have fights or anything else. But what exactly can we do to find a way around it? And about the I part, I mean, I've been asking this question since childhood. Who am I? Even as a young person, I wondered what really I was. Am I this body? Am I this mind? Am I this family? Or where I am, this place? So I've tried finding answer to it at different places at different times. Sometimes that I was so traveling around, experiencing things, learning lessons. What really is it? Someone wants to really understand.
Yes, it's very difficult to find out this proper answer. Okay, let's go to the first part of your question.
농구 녀모도 가서 매봐서 도시오 말했디 공을 먹는 도사 기사들 절 좋았디 약시지가 뒤창고다.
Okay.
여러분 양이다요.
Samson sukian gelat. And so first of all, going to the first part of your question about how to reduce a little bit attachment, right? And so since we are mainly attracted, or we generate attachment gives rise mainly out of either tactile objects, like something that we touch and is comfortable and so forth. So mainly towards tactile objects, and to forms and to colors. So these are the main sort of objects of our attachment. And so since attachment is an afflictive state of afflictive mind that is within ourselves, and it's very difficult to counteract. And so temporarily, like as a technique or a method, is to get come a little bit far from these three kinds of objects, like, or don't look at these. Don't be too close to these sort of objects of your attachment. And then maybe like just for temporarily, as a temporary technique to reduce or not to give opportunity to give rise to this to attachment. Since actually attachment is here, is in the one's own continue, but because it's too is a long process, and so at least temporarily you just be a little bit far from the objects that give rise attachment.
니 단나가서 지단이 침묵 아니 러브리 침묵은 소나 데라 온보 거던 거래제 디소요레스 온보 거던나 미나나 지소가 거던 거래라
Gotum kore.
거던 거죠 온보 거죠
Gokyakures. And from the Lamrim text, the stage of the path. So what is written also, what Geshe Rinpoche gave us as advice is sort of to close our 9 doors, our 9 faculties doors, like eyes, ears, smells, foot, like nose. And so if we can close these doors, is good.
다 온보 거던 세 때라 베나 무그 두게 질라 마타와 안소가 키가 게츠 많이 와 아니 라바 그 코그티리제스 많이 와 아튼데 베가 그래서 무그 따셔와도 다이 나이 니셔나 생거 아니 디컬라 소모 마토니 젬바컬라 동거래라더라 그것도 니소야.
And what means this to close these doors is in order like to not look at the objects of your attachment, to not listen, to not smell, and so anything that gives rise to your attachment. So if you cannot engage in this relation, is good. Or even like if you cannot, if you avoid to touch, like with your hands, the object, I think is good. And even if you don't do this, like don't look or don't touch and so forth, like you probably will miss and will think about. And so in that moment that you think or you're missing, try to avoid these thoughts, like not to feed these thoughts. This what is the meaning of the quote in Lamrim.
tani tawani pati ta da se ta Solomon boto ti tanda pe nyam do zira ta tingema lojumbo yere ni daga porde chuta hakora nam semana do sunde porde chuta le ni chiroba zagire ta chili jemba da yere se sonji tere ko mombo tsi ne ko da manyeles ani manyedere kumba go jo ge ko soma jone ni no chami pati di manyeles. And
it's true that actually to find this I, this self, is very difficult. And even there is the Pandita Pandinchura, I don't know in Sanskrit name. So Pandinchura, yes. So there is one, we are trying to remember Dharmakirti. And so the Pandita, Karisa? Dharmakirti. And so the Pandita Dharmakirti, like he was really engaged in this reflection and contemplation about self, how to recognize the self, I mean the existent self and so forth. And he couldn't find, and he was really trying to find the self, to find the self and this I, this self. And he even like closed himself in a room alone, just okay, now I'm gonna find this self because I'm alone here in this room, and he couldn't find. But just because we don't find the self doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Why? Because I eat, I drink, I do things, right?
다 소환이 용진도 칼라니자도 노시 도머린 차안도 저안도 연이 요아자샤 자레스 다 텔라 소소고 냠뉴고니 시고아지라마도 무크드리 질라탄 토노제 그 냐지 마레라다로 소소고 냠뉴산에 하고 고지.
So I experience, I live, I eat, I drink. So I do so many things. So how to say that this I doesn't exist? This is not the case. So we already know that this I exists. Okay, but the point is, this doesn't exist as we perceive. It doesn't exist as we think it does exist. It's like that.
Tene ngaso la sonoto di sosoku pombo ngoto kumbato lapat sona nga imba pajeso to marela dra. Tene sosoku pombo ngoto lapali los de tatene jakio marela. Ta kota sosoka yobation jimda ton de reze amiga pa bazamato pajeyo mareti. Tnijila sonoto ngorela.
Porque pompo tangeva, pompo le losu yomare.
Pompo le losu yomare. Pompo di yomare.
Pompo di yang yomare. Aha, nangne yomare.
Pompo no yomare. Ti poroshita yobaji sonoto gushi.
Okay, so this I, okay. So we talk pompo de sugi pompo ra.
Sugi pompo.
Menam this mantra. And so, okay, so when we are trying to understand, so to find this self. Okay, so I am what, right? I am trying to find this I. So what is this I? Is this body? or these aggregates, compounded aggregates of physical and psychological aggregates? No. Okay, so it's something different. It's completely separate or different as this body and psychological part. Also no. So this I that exists is something in between. It's not something different of these physical psychological aggregates, but also is not the physical and psychological aggregate. It's something in between.
다 소소금 고토 봄바도 라파도 디즈포터 나마이바 버치하고 토레에서 지금도 있는 계속 하고 살아라. 것도 나 말을로나 나 말을로 로터사를 터사마를.
Okay, at least for me, yes, at least for me, when I'm checking this okay, so if it's nothing separate and also it's not the aggregates themselves, and so for me at least is a little bit easier or obvious to say that, okay, my parts, for example, my head is not me, my arms are not me, my legs is not me. At least for me, this is a little bit more clear. I want to listen from you. Do you feel that the head is not you? The arms is not you? Do you feel this? How do you experience this? Can you say that your head is not you? Someone can say. Let's change the question. This head, it's me. Who agree with this, or who feels like that? Can you say that it's not me? When we point our own head, this head is me. Someone can say no.
I can try. I think by reasoning, like maybe think about like why my head is not me, but of course, like instinctively, like my first feeling is that, of course, it's me.
Yes.
Okay. I know the head is not me. My hands is my hands are not me. But my hands, I still think my hands belongs to me because I feel the pain when it hurts. When a knife cut on my hand, I feel the pain. So it belongs to me. That's why I feel the pain. If it's not mine, then I won't feel the pain. Is that correct?
그걸라면 고토나 마레세니 로터사르티 소노요요 또나 데니 옹나티 이사레서 소노지레라라 고딜라라 다니 가선들이 소노토더라 페나 나간 고토 니 고토 나 마레라게나 모니타다 쿠글라노지레 난 고나나 나 나이도로도 아세레
Okay, so let's mix both of the observations from Itamar from Perry. That is, well, okay, if you start thinking a little bit, then you cannot relate your eye with your head. But instinctively, naturally comes that, oh, maybe the head is you. And but if you really look, oh, so this head is me, maybe it's not me, but maybe the head is mine, just like Perry said. Like this can experience easier.
So lapala matena ngala mate sono gres. Tilatini ni lapata tangingo tangare sombaka luto tandaleuji cook tranojere. Ti tate munichina ngai lapana ngai ngona la munichin janchina tiunguyores. Nangona sejumares, ngai ngona la bushures, ngai lapala mate se atila masuchina ratatele ta injikir.
Nga gona gimare, ngai gona gitila gide. Nga gona gimares, ngai gona.
So tila gures.
And so it's true that when, for example, this head is painful, I feel pain, like my head is painful, or when my arm has this wound and so forth, sort of it's my hand that is, I'm feeling the pain because it's my hand that is painful. So it's true, like by this relationship of sort of possession, because it's my head and my arm and so forth, then I feel this, this eye feels the sensation of pain and so forth. And even like in Bodhisattva's way of life of Shantideva, he's saying that it's not nga kare nga go nagidura.
나인고.
He's saying that it's not that I as my head is painful, like it's not I as being head is painful. It's actually my head is painful. So it's not that the head is painful that creates I am painful. It's my head. So the relationship of possession, my head is painful is correct. The head as being I is painful is not correct.
드니 또 전세 지르. 전세 니바텔라 나근 거다 나이로 자이나 나솔로 소노 가라요레라나 소소근 건 동에도 뭐뭐 yapıcı나 지지야가 터시지라나 소소로 지야가 소노 레이레 또 레이마레나 또 레이레라더라. 레이레 말을 저도 말. 소소근 건 동에지라. 나로 진건 동에지라다.
고동에. 게라 고동이 거예요. He said that his head is ugly.
내가 그때 나중 거다 뭐 yapıcı 넘바 yapı근 거니 보때 반지 짐을 저저 라나 저 짐을 좀 도인 도바도 열어도 요 말해라더라.
Okay, and so in Bodhisattva's way of life, that is saying, I as head is painful and so forth. It's not like that. It has to be my head is painful, right? So if the head is the I, let's take one very ugly head. For example, my head. So my head is ugly, and so if the I is ugly because this head is ugly, if maybe we can do like transfer of head, and then we can change by a very nice head in order to become beautiful. If anyone feels ugly because of the head is ugly, did you already give rise to the thought of or wish to, okay, let's try to change my head for a beautiful head? Did you already experience this? I can say something. Let me choose. I think because we maybe relate as the person as being the head, just talking about the head, because we know that there is no transfer, but we know that it's the plastic chirurgy. And so the plastic chirurgy is sort of transforming this ugly head because we want to become beautiful. Donde tires. Now, Geshe Gelsen for the next class, right? She geres. Chirdanchina dangatso godi nga marela. Ine ngatso deo peshu chempo sorpa invasonza. Ngatso di godi jebogai yores. Jebogai yo mares ngatso hako giresra. Ani goni jebo shema ngatso jebogiavia loa tang kare kema dawa ngatso yo mare ngatso hako yores. Ine yang ngatso amchi padro sama ni jebo dawo zoya doa. Di dawo ni yores tensanga ni zamarina ani sama ni kare dongir dawo ina ni jebo zoya yores. Tensang pema un podo kare chini sena kel singa so tompa ni jebo dawo chaya ngatso ni jebo dawo chaya yores. Di ma sonsa sornan di ship tempo dus dinge samstru.
지지야 라긴 걸리게 제 링고라게 jes어 요라. 요만.
Chesani go jebo gya yo mare. Go jebo gya.
Which rakin go to Chera. Rakin go to Cherliger, go Cheral Jolumba. Tiorelumba.
And but he wants to know if it's possible, if there is possibility to just to leave our body here and to cut the head and put the head of someone beautiful here. Is possible or not? Oh, it's possible. They are saying
liver transplantation and heart transplantation.
Liver transplantation, but the whole head transplantation.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think so. Do you think so?
People this idea.
So they said yes, there is this possibility, and then I said no, there is no possibility of transfer of transfer. But then he said, well, so if it's like that, why there is possibility or it's possible exists like transfer or transplantation of heart? why it's possible to transplant heart, since it's a mix of so many veins and so forth. And so why can you transplant transplant and reconnect all the veins and arteries and so forth to a new heart in that body? And why do you think it's not possible then to transplant head, if also it's possible to reconnect everything and to do? And so why do you think it's not possible? I want to listen from you. Okay, maybe to change the beauty. To change the beauty is possible, but not to change the head is not possible.
We actually overall had this discussion last year. For example, with the transplanted heart, if you're still yourself, or are you taking parts of the mind of the other person? Or for example, like people that come from a sperm donation and they don't know their father and their genetics, do they still have the same eye, or is the mind changing? So this was the questions that were asked last year, but we didn't really have a answer.
Jemba puita ni soso kopa no limite puita lara.
Che sina de kabla ni pala yo maresra. Ani kirsi pala yo de yore pala yo mare la pita. Pala yo mare la pita. Ani pala yo de ke sa koada. Ina kola ni pala yo mares. De masosa ni soso dactis kadres. Ani
Da ngaso tila titsere ani jemba pomok nolata ani nicha kutajira. E poi jemba ko kopan liga ina puicha reza jiro.
Dici che a me na scelna la yani koa tangonga tututang di daura. De lauda.
Tin pama yoreze. Tin ama kor tombo tizata pama idere. Karis na ngaso paseba maseba samelisia jiwa. Ti cosa taji pomoti ke to jemba tino lina cosa na machire tina koko mangoni to ngama di koa to satrela. Ti se na semeli chare mato nisho to se na semeli chamare ze nismodo. Ti de ko pamani pasho de yoreze. 다 그러고 다세야도 그러고 본부 다시 ngama 그 파마니 살을 저 그다텔라 때니 아니 본부도 저 그래. 디 다 그러 로카로까지 레이래라더라.
Well, first of all, to say like by the sperm donation, like the babies by coming from sperm donation, we like in mundane words, like we say that there is no father, but of course there is father. There is no production of a baby without father or without the father's sperm. And so in that moment of the copulation or of the coming together, of the meeting of the ovule and the ovule and the sperm, in that moment is the father and the mother's parts. And so in that moment there is father, and then after, if there's the father is not present, it's another talk. But in the moment of the coming to existence, the very first moment of this the fetus, so of course there was the presence of the father first, and then on the top of this new body that is the result of a physical body of the father and the mother, and then on the top of these physical parts of father and the mother, and then the eye start existence. This is another talk.
Tana ko to atimdo ngote nga mare lapata nga mena nga ngona to lapana nga na ta kandisha ko rese tindo ti nga so la garesina ngai ngoto ngani potele susu sone pe ngota den chiya mare kunin rade ores pena chunchu ito shedong nga so saboji tawra shedong saboji tawni to jiku shedo chumbo chasona chumbo ta nga mo mare ti shedo ngi mo ilo ores ngi taw ilo ya gabsena shedong no nakoda pena meton da silandri meto agora flow meto ka saboji tawra to meto ka saboji tawni jigu meto ya chumbo chalo meto ya shetsa ko meto ta ngi tang ilo ti tang ilo atila ngama ka saboji taw che meto ni potolo mo thate den shiya yo mares oti chanires ti de nga to ngay go ngay lapa la ji josi do de koyu muje susun shayo ma kuni pan jide wala tika ningo na na se jagre.
And the Paris observation, right? The observation that came from Paris that says, well, I am not this head, I'm not the arm, but definitely there is a connection, because all the time that the head is painful, I feel the pain. All the time that this arm is painful, then I feel this. I can feel this pain. If the arm it was not mine, so I not feel the pain and so forth. So you said this. So definitely, I mean, when you it's true that head, arms, all the parts is not me, but definitely there is a a connection between the parts and this eye, and not just the connection. Actually, it's all the same essence. The eye and all the parts labeled by on the top of these parts of this eye, and so the eye and all the parts are the same, sort of the same nature. The same nature is not the same relationship. If we talk about, for example, a glass just laying down on the top of a table, so the glass and the table, they are not the same essence. There is no relationship, but it's not like this. Like this has a relationship, just like, for example, let's say that we plant a seed, and when we plant a seed, after this seed grow a nice flower, and then we look at the flower and we point and at the flower, say, I planted this flower. Actually, we didn't plant the flower, you plant the seed, but because the flower came from the same continuity, let's say that from this seed, the seed and this flower, they have the same sort of nature in the sense of continuity. So that's a reason that they have relationship, and it's true, and it's okay to say that I planted this flower because you planted actually the seed.
아니 담아텔라 아니 맞서 단다 제나 콜라시아 그티 소소소가 판드니 니 소노 동국도 싫어 소노 감자스니 온 리지니 데 고아치오 마레 가르세나 맞서 감달라 조감도 제거니로 제감세야도 소소가 리칼리티 칼라자티 양도 만도 제코서 소노 돈이 마 소소가 리토 마토 다 계자시토 아니 소노 돈도 리그 그쪽도 간가 소노 돈도나 소소가 레비차도 말레비차도 오 느리비나 드림도서 파쇼텔라 테니 and devina and dream mudun the chena and the chego sare sawaka ani nawjata susu ko rojen bijel ani solo tona te yung thuri eso te chego rela.
Okay, since today we have to conclude a little bit early, and so we already run out of time. So let's leave today here, but I really ask you to reflect on this during these days. Okay, and so how do you perceive everything, and how do you perceive everything that we spoke today here, and to reflect and to meditate about this. Doesn't mean that to sit and close the eyes and to reflect and to think like this. It's not just like this. Everything that you do, all the activities that you engage, whichever activity that you engage, you have to keep observing, keep checking. What is the nature of the activity that I'm engaging with? Is directed or has inclinations towards a good or the bad side of that activities. So you have to engage all the time. All the time you have to check, observe and check your own activities in daily routine. It's not talking about let's meditate and so I have to sit like that. It's not like that. Meditate is reflecting the daily activities that you are engaging and observe that. Try to check if it's towards good or bad side.
아니 니마치라 니 조킬라 리카도 년공도 드니라 소소고 소노 간디통도 계자 간디시인도 리그 남자 간디테노 군다티 인치메시 카시나 통고하더니 제도나 야부여레 디디 군다 인치메시 소노 통도나 야부여레라.
And then if you can really do on a daily basis, for example, since you wake up until going to bed, nighttime before going to bed, you reflect how were all my actions and my activities and actions within these days, within this day. How many good actions, how many bad actions? So you do think, reflect genuinely. Don't pretend to be so nice. I mean, do very genuinely how many good and bad actions you do, and try to write like how many good actions and bad actions you do right before you go to bed. Can be very helpful.
아니 기와는 용달나마 내주죠 벌라는 사도는 비유대로 도지 조기 공부냐다쇼 아니 다시 딜레.
Okay, thank you, and see you. Okay, see you next Sunday, same Yeah, maybe same time. We say after we give the communications, okay? Okay. Bye. If you want to send questions along the week, please feel free. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
In 10 minutes, we start a new class for